I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but there's a difference between mistakes and disasters. I'm going to tell you all about it when we come back. Don't go away. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fat Guy Productions. I am Paul, coming to you as always from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. And it's true, there is a difference between making a mistake and having disaster strike. I'm going to have some of both happen in my ladder truck build. Today, you're going to get to see me make just a monster mistake. Really big, okay? You'll see more about it in the next video probably as well, because when I make it in today's video, I have no idea I did it, okay? I'm not going to know I made this mistake for a while yet, and man, I'm just, in today's video when I make the mistake, you can tell me what you think I should do. Or you can wait until the next video, but I'm going to ask you guys what you think I should do to address this horrific mistake. And don't even think this means that there isn't going to be disaster, because later there's going to be some mega disaster. Today, it's all about mistakes. Either way, let's get to work. All right, let's get back to work on this ladder truck. And today we're going to start off by working on the outriggers. Now, in my opinion, these are one of the more fiddly parts of the ladder chief build. I'm not a fan of the way they go together, especially the way the foot of the outrigger connects to the outrigger itself. The two little hooks. It's a difficult process to put on there, and frankly, the foot is supposed to be a solid plate. You're not supposed to have those little holes in it. So, once we're done building these outriggers, we're going to have to actually fill the foot in and sand it down and stuff. And so I'm not a fan of these, and it gets even worse because when you put them into the body, they are always falling, and if you pick the truck up, go to move it, they fall, and the little hydraulic ram thing comes apart, and you have to put that back together about 7 billion times. But hey, it is what it is. Look, clean all the parts up, glue them together carefully, because you don't want to glue the arm for the hydraulic ram. You don't want that to be locked into place. You don't want the foot locked into place. So you got to do some strategic gluing here, but you'll be okay. Anyhow, so we're going to get all 4 of the outriggers built so that we can get them painted and put them in before we start the assembly of the rear body. Okay, so I've got all 4 outriggers together. I'll work on painting them. I'm just going to use a rattle can, silver, aluminum paint, just paint them up, and we'll let them dry and sit to the side for a bit while we turn our attention to the rear body. Now, this is the upper deck, and you can see it's got a pretty good warp in it. I've told you before, these AMT kits, they're so warped. It's like trying to glue 2 bananas together in a straight line without breaking the bananas. It's always a challenge. This upper deck is completely bent, and the side panels of the body are also warped. So, like I said, gluing 2 bananas together. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just double checking the side edges, making sure there's no seams, nothing sticking out. I want to make sure that the notches for the outriggers are clear, making sure everything is ready to go here. And I have a plan for how I'm going to glue these together, and we'll just have to see how well this is going to work out. Now, as you remember, the side panels, I did some pre-assembly on them so I could paint and decal them. So all that is ready. Now I just need to get these glued onto the base and make sure everything is flat, straight, and true. Now, another thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to do these front panels. And I wasn't prepared for that, so I got to get those all cut out, make sure they're trimmed up and ready to go. But we got to get everything together here because each piece interlocks with the next piece, and it's all going to form some solid structure that's going to help straighten out the back of this truck. So I really need to have all my eggs in a row here. So I think I have everything. I've got the upper deck, I've got the inner panels, I've got the front panels, I've got the sides, I've got the outriggers. And what I've done is I've taken a bunch of 1, 2, 3 blocks and I put them all over the upper deck with the upper deck face down. And that's holding it nice and flat. And now I'm putting a little bit of my gel control CA at all of the major intersections. Not everywhere, just at the major intersections. And my plan is this. I'm going to start at one end with the body panel, and I'm going to kind of line it up and get it into its spot and into the couple drops of CA that are there. And then I'm going to hit it up with some accelerator, let that dry. Once it's dry, then I'll move the panel going down the end into place, into its drops of CA, hit it with accelerator, let it dry, and I'll do that from end to end until it's all in there and being held straight and square by the CA and the upper deck. And what I'm counting on is the sides and the inserts and all of that. I'm counting on all of those to work together to straighten each other out. Did that make any sense? I don't even know at this point. But anyhow, so like I said, I just did CA at the intersections. And once that's dry, I'm going to go back with the Tamiya thin cement and I'm going to drop that into the seams just to reinforce everything. So we've got a combination of Tamiya and CA. And then when I'm done with that, I'm even going to go one step further. I'm going to take another CA glue and I'm going to put some globs at the major intersections and put some accelerator on those to kind of add strength and support to all the edges. Now, I'll tell you this, you need to be careful when you're doing that because you don't want to have a big old glob of CA right where the frame is going to have to sit flush. So ask me how I know that. But yeah, so I'll do all that, let everything dry, and hopefully it'll all be strong enough that it'll keep the upper deck straight and the sides of the truck straight. Okay, so while all of that is drying, we're going to turn my attention to the interior, and I'm using all the interior parts that come with the cab that I bought from Models by Dave, because everything is different. Okay, he provides you with an interior and a divider and a dashboard and all that stuff, so that's what I'm doing here. I have already taken the interior and painted the inside of it silver, letting that dry, and now I'm just assembling the dashboard, and go figure, it's bent, it's a little warping. So a little bit of CA on one end, let it dry, then kind of bend it in place, a little CA on the other end, let it dry, and after all, I need to use CA here anyhow, because these are resin parts. So yeah, I've burned through a lot of CA on this kit, so I'm going to open up another tube. This Loctite gel control stuff is seriously amazing. And if you want to know just how amazing, go look up my favorite YouTuber in the world, Craftsman, steadycrafting.com or something like that. But anyhow, Craftsman. Look him up. He did a test on different CA glues, and this glue blew me away, man. This stuff is so strong, it's not even funny. So I keep, 6 or 7 bottles of this in my studio at all times. Never leave home without it. But anyhow, I'm going to get this all glued together, and then we can start to get some paint going. Okay, so like I said, I had painted the interior part aluminum silver with rattle can, and then I'm just going to brush paint the walls of this flat black. I guess I could have probably tried to tape it and stuff, but you're never going to be able to see down in there. So I think I can do a good enough job that I don't need to go to all that hassle. I'm just going to go ahead and brush paint it flat black, get the entire part. Now, remember I told you that you needed to paint these parts all around? Do what I say, not what I do, because the bottom side of this body here, this interior part, it shows up from underneath, and it looks terrible if it's not painted. So you have to make sure you paint the outside part that really is nothing in terms of the model. But if you flip it over, you're going to see all this white unpainted plastic, and you're going to hate it. So this whole thing, except for the floor, which is that aluminum color, the whole thing needs to be painted flat black. And of course, not just the interior, we need to paint the dashboard too. So it's all dry from my little battle with the CA and getting it straightened out and squared up. So I can go ahead and paint that flat black as well. And since we're on a roll with the flat black paint, again, this is just Tamiya flat black paint, the rungs of the main ladder all need to be painted too. So it's not really that big a chore. They're pretty easy to paint, but you do need to go up from one side, paint all the rungs, flip it over, and go the other way and paint all the rungs again to make sure you get them completely covered. But it's well worth the effort, and it's going to make your ladder look so much more realistic. Between the aluminum paint, the black painted rungs, the drilled out rung holes, and then later we're going to run cables and stuff and the whole 9 yards. This is really going to bring a lot of detail and interest to the build. So yeah, you really do need to paint the rungs. So you might as well do it while the paint's already on the brush. Okay, so the first parts of the rear body are built and dry. Now I need to put these bottoms on. And again, stuff is just not fitting well. And I'm really going to run into a problem with this a little bit later on when I try to marry the rear body to the frame. It's not going to fit. It's going to be too tight. And it's actually going to bow the body out. And I'm going to end up having to do a lot of work with the rotary tool and some sanding drums and grind this all down to make everything fit. But hey, it is what it is. I still have to get these parts on, so I'm test fitting the best I can. Again, I'm going to use CA because the warpage here is going to make using regular glue not a very viable option. So a lot of CA and accelerator here because I need this stuff to bind up and lock down as quickly as it can. So we're going to get these installed, and that should add a lot of support to the rear body. And again, rather than just holding stuff for hours at a time, here's the 1, 2, 3 blocks coming to the rescue. These things are just invaluable. One of the best things you can have on your workbench. Okay, so now we're getting to the rear of the rear body. Did that make sense? Yeah, I guess so. This is where it's going to start to get tricky because we have to install the rear panels. We've got to put the outriggers in there because they get trapped in as you're gluing things together. We have to put the last two compartments in there. It's a whole little menagerie of things that you have to do back here. So we start by gluing in this one rear panel, and it has a part of the pins that will trap the hydraulics for the outriggers. So we'll get this in, let it dry, and then the next thing we'll do is we'll glue in the compartments and the first pair of outriggers. Okay, so I have all the parts of the outriggers just loosely in place, and then I'm going to go ahead and fit this rear compartment box in place, and that's going to pin all of the parts of the outriggers in there so that they're held in and they will still function. It's a little bit tricky, so I'm not using any glue. I'm just trying to get everything in position, and then I'll glue it down from the inside because this may take a little fidgeting. It's a very fiddly part of this build, and these outriggers, the design is terrible, and I'll show you more about that in a second. But the most crucial thing here is that I have the rear compartment box oriented properly. You'll remember I told you that, the left side was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The right side is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for the numbers on the compartment doors. And so I have to make sure that this is oriented correctly. So I spent a lot of time double and triple checking to make sure that it was right. Then I went ahead and pinched everything in and used a little bit of CA glue to lock it all down. And I blew it. Terrible, terrible mistake. I put the compartment in backwards. And I all I can think of is this. Because I spent a lot of time trying to make sure the orientation was right. All I can think of is that to get a better angle of approach, I turned the body around after I had oriented the compartments. And so when I glued them in, they were now backwards. They're backwards. And I'll tell you what I'm doing here in a second. Let me just finish this point. They're backwards, and I don't know what to do about it. I really don't. So the left side is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and the right side is 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I don't know what to do about it. I didn't notice it here. I noticed it much, much later when it was really too late to do much about it. So in the comments down below, put down what you think I should do, or you can wait until the next episode, which is where I think I notice the mistake. But then you can kind of give me your opinion on what you think I should do. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm scratch building some parts that should be with this kit. You see, with everything being as warped as it is, this back section really never, ever, ever holds the outriggers in place properly. They just keep falling out. So what I've done is I've used a little bit of tape here, and I've taped these snug so that the outriggers won't fall out. And then I'm cutting out little sheets of styrene, and I'm gluing them in place to hold this position so that the outriggers will stay in there from now on. There should be some sort of a part in the kit here designed to help hold these outriggers in. But I'm telling you, anybody who's ever built this model will tell you that the outriggers are notorious for just falling right off of the truck. And you're constantly, anytime you move the damn thing, you're constantly having to put it back together. So that is my solution to fix that. But anyhow, I'm going to shake off the mistake, and I'm going to turn my attention to the tires. Just like I did with engine 14, I'm going to stuff the tires with some rolled up blue shop towels. This will keep the tires from getting all floppy over time, okay? Because they tend to start to get flat. They tend to this is the huge problem. They fall off the rims. Next thing you know, your display, the wheels are all crooked looking and terrible. So I'm stuffing some rolled up blue paper towel in the tires to keep them full looking. Then when I put the wheels inside the tires, I'm actually using a little bit of cyanoacrylate to hold them in place. All right, because otherwise these become very, very messy over time. Again, like the other parts of the model, the design stuff here isn't really the best, and sometimes you have to work around it. Now, also, what you're going to want to do, especially I had a really bad seam line in the middle of my tires. I needed to use a Sharpie to get rid of the seam line, and then I sanded down the tread. And so I did all of that as well. But here you can see I'm putting in a little bit of CA just before I drive the wheel home. Okay, so it's going to lock it in. I got the paper towel in there. That's going to keep this tire on the wheel where it belongs, and it's going to keep it nice and full and looking the way it should look. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to do this with all the tires and set them aside until I'm done. So the tires are molded in black rubber, and I have to tell you that if your tires on your builds are black, they're wrong, okay? Go look at your car. And I defy you to tell me that your tires are black, because they're not. Okay, your tires are kind of a brownish, blackish gray, all right? So I'm using Tamiya NATO black, or they also have a rubber black. And you can use either one. I'm actually painting the sidewall of the tire with this paint to give it a more realistic look. So I've got the NATO black on the sidewalls. I've sanded down the treads. And this is going to give everything a pretty realistic final appearance. And it's going to look pretty nice. And then later I'll come in with some Molotow and I'll paint in all the lugs and stuff like that. But for right now, I just want to get the tires all painted so I can set them aside to dry. All right, we're almost at a good stopping point, and we'll wrap things up for today. But I do want to take care of some stuff with the dash. First of all, I want to apologize for how blown out the shot is. What happens is when I put down this big, giant white piece of instruction sheet, it screws up the camera, and I have to remember to adjust my overhead light, and I forgot to do it here, so it's a little blown out. But what I'm doing is I made decals for all the gauges on the dashboard, and these are decals of real American LaFrance gauges. So I've got these decals, I'm cutting them out, and then I'm going to start by putting down little white backers, and then I'll put the gauge decals down. I even made a little warning sticker to go on top of the dashboard. And so we're going to go through, water slide the white sub decals on all over the place, let them dry, then we'll come back and put the gauge decals down and let them dry before we go to the next step. All right, to finish off the dash, I need my gauges that I put all those decals to look like lenses. So I'm going to use the Tester's clear glue, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a blurb of it over every gauge. Okay, make sure there's no bubbles in it, and then I'll just let that dry, and it's going to be a nice, clear, transparent layer, which is going to make each gauge look like they're behind a lens. It's these little details that maybe when you look at the model, you don't really know what it is you're seeing that makes it look so nice, but you're picking it up. It's all these little things that take it to the next level. So, anyhow, a little tester's glue over each gauge. Let that dry. The dashboard is done, and we're going to wrap it up for today. All right, there you have it, the ladder truck. We've got some good work done on the cab, the wheels. We've got the rear body going. You know, it's really starting to take shape. And despite the mistake and despite the disasters to come, I really do think it's coming out pretty damn well. Okay, I don't know how, but I do think it's coming out awesome. I hope you like this video. If you do, give it a giant thumbs up, click subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss any of my videos. As always, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I love to hear from you guys. Okay, that's going to do it for today. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I hope the rest of your day is amazing. Until next time, this is Paul from Fat Guy Productions saying, be good.